Morning, good afternoon, welcome. We're going to be working with some pipe networks today and looking at some CTC tools that make that a heck of a lot more efficient. My name's Colin Gaudette. I'm a environmental civil technologist working with SolidCAD. I'm going to be your speaker as we kind of guide through this process, work through some demos today. If you do have any questions or that, I'll address them all at the end. Feel free to dump them in either the chat box or ideally the question and answer panel, and we'll take a look at that. I'm flying solo, so I'll try and be tactful and I'll try and keep an eye on it here as we go through. So as I said, today we're going to be looking at a lot of kind of pipe network setup and a lot of how to get the most efficiency out of our pipe networks. And then we're going to dive into the CTC tools and see how we can even kind of pull a little bit more efficiency out of those. So kicking things off, the very first thing that we start with pipe networks is, I guess this is kind of a trick because the very first thing we start with is a pipe catalog, which is the entirely external of Civil 3D, and we're going to then pull what we need from that into our parts lists. So it's these parts lists that we want to make sure that we've got everything set up correctly. So starting with our styles, making sure that we've got all of those right. Making sure that we've got the right number of parts lists. One parts list is not going to be the most efficient way to apply that one single parts list to the entire drawing and your sanitary and your storm, your existing, proposed, future, all of that sort of stuff. So we like to break these up into multiple parts lists. That way we can assign the right part sizes, part materials, styles, and everything like that, and even pay items associated into each of these parts lists that can then be allocated to a pipe network. And the reason that we do this is so that we can not have to change things individually or manually. We want this to be as automated as possible, so having multiple parts lists is really going to help us out. Along with these parts lists, we've got rule sets and, like I was mentioning, the pay items. So we can assign those pay items in here. Now this has to be done preemptively. It can't be retroactive. If we do it retroactively, awesome. It's ready for the next project though, because we can't have that then get pushed out to all of the pipes that we already have in our drawing. But we can set up all of these parts lists set up all of these pay items in our parts lists, and we can run QTO off of them. With our rule sets, these ones here, it's important to remember that our rule sets and our parts list are not going to govern and force and control how our pipes operate. These are simply there as a flag once they're in the drawing to say, hey, this pipe is outside of the parameters that you set. However, initially, when we start with those rule sets, those are going to help us as we're picking and clicking in plan view, as we usually do to lay out pipes. It's these rule sets that are going to help us get us as close as possible to our vertical that we're looking for. One of the most common ones is the cover and slope. Set our max and minimum covers to make sure that we're not worried about frost heave in Canada, or make sure that we're not kind of in way too much of a trenching situation. One little fun fact though is maybe you've never seen how that rule operates. I guess I'll go back one sec. The way that rule operates, it actually works on a rule of thirds. So if I can draw this out, if I've got a pipe here, it's going to split that pipe into thirds. And it's going to check for the existing ground as it is on each of those thirds. So it's going to confirm the first third right here and say, is the cover being matched adequately? Right here to here. Perfect. Is it adequate in the center? Good. Maybe it's not adequate at the end over here. This is not the right depth. Well, then it knows if this one isn't, it's going to hold the initial, it's going to hold the starting invert, associated with, let's draw that as a structure, and it's going to pivot downwards. So it's going to hold the starting and it's going to pivot downwards. Vice versa, if the starting wasn't, it would hold the back and pivot the opposite direction. I'm not going to make this too messy. Let's get back to things. But little things that we need to understand kind of how they work in the background so that we can apply them into our designs. Moving on though, talking about network setup. So getting into our pipe networks, now that we've got our parts lists already associated here, we want to associate each one of those to our pipe networks, our storm, our SANI, our existing storm, our existing sanitary. So we like to break that stuff up so that we can assign the right parts lists, so that the right styles are allocated. But we run into some issues with layering. Our pipe network layers, well, these ones come from our object layers in our drawings. Keep messing that up. There we go. But there's one object layer for pipes. There's one object layer for structures. There is no great way around this. That's just the way Civil 3D operates. A pipe is a single type of entity, right? We don't have a storm pipe versus a sanitary pipe, although we add that additional meaning to them in our designs. So we can only assign one layer. Now that's the default layer, but what's stopping us from setting up these pipe networks ahead of time? We can create these pipe networks inside of our templates so that we've got these networks already mapped to the right styles, to the right layers, with the right naming conventions. There's probably 15 different decisions within a pipe network that you're going to have to make each time you create a storm proposed or a sanitary existing with respect to the layers and styles and naming conventions. We can do all of that ahead of time and just store it in our template so that it's ready to go. And then we simply just right click on it and edit the network. Now talking about organizing ourselves as well, there's always kind of this balance within Civil 3D of precision and kind of keeping things all consolidated versus performance. These pipe networks are large objects, so it is recommended, you're going to see better performance if you separate the pipe networks into their own separate drawing and then use your data shortcuts to then bring those into kind of that consolidated design drawing for labeling and production. And then on the same note of performance, when we create our profile views, there's always a tab for pipes if you've already got those pipes in the drawing. Now, if you check off to use the storm network in there, it's going to grab, I did it again, it's going to grab every single one of these and it's going to try and draw them, even if they're not on the right street, even if they are 300 meters away. It's still going to try and draw every single pipe and every single structure in that one profile view. Now extrapolate that out. If we start splitting up our profile views, so we're ready for plan and profiles, we're going to run into some issues where we are projecting that exact same structure or pipe 15 different times. It's much more recommended that we make sure that we are only showing the pipes and structures that we need, right? So only show the couple structures and pipes that we need, not all of them. Oh, and there's that cover and slope rule. Shoot. Apologies. So like I was talking about the rule of thirds. If the cover's violated in the first third, it's going to pivot off of the downstream invert. I think my drawing was better though. Moving on. And then the last here, this is maybe less of a best practice, but more of an option that you should know that you're able to do is obviously we're able to create pipe networks from objects. Now those objects could just be 3D polylines or feature lines or something like that to get us initial elevations. They could be a little bit more adapt. Maybe your surveyors have gone out and dipped all the manholes for an existing storm sewer. And they've created then a survey figure that maps out the inverts of all of those storm sewers. Well, we can create our pipe network, our existing storm network from that survey figure. And we can use the elevations in that survey figure. We're going to look at, that's kind of great because that creates all of this stuff with the right elevations right off the hop. We don't have to edit them. But you can't do multiple runs at the same time in the exact same network. So we're going to look at how we can merge the networks together to kind of consolidate uh, a full network of structures and pipes. Lastly, let's come back to this. We'll dive in here in a minute. I would like to not do death by PowerPoint. Let's open some of this up. So I've got some drawings in Civil 3D here. I also have a template. So to my point that I was making about efficiency of having our networks and our parts lists all broken out and in our template, this is actually what we've done here. So in this scenario, we've got existing storm, existing sanitary, PR storm, PR sanitary already in there. And those have actually already been allocated to all of our different pipe networks that are in this template already. So when we start a new project, we're ready to go off to the races. You take your existing storm, right click, edit network, get your toolbar, and then you're off to the races. And inside of each one of these, if we take a look real quick, we have actually picked the name, the utility type, our X manhole for our naming conventions here. All of our layers are correct, and we're using the X storm parts list. All of this stuff can be associated ahead of time. It's all these little decisions that are only going to take 2 or 3 minutes. But that's 2 or 3 minutes or 10 minutes every single project, every single time. It's nice to have that done for us. Let's bump back over into our design. So in our design here, I have polylines. We could pretend that these are survey figures. What I'm going to do though is create some feature lines from these polylines. So I'm going to feature lines from object. I'm going to drop these in their own site. We're going to go new. We're going to call these PR storm. I like to have my own site to silo that information. I can leave the style as by block, erase the existing entities, and I definitely want to assign elevations. That's the best part about this. Now we don't want to insert intermediate grade breaks, but I do have a finished ground surface that I can pull all of that information from. So that's going to be my surface that we base all the cover off of, obviously, but as well as the rim elevations. Now, once we have all these feature lines, we can then create pipe networks. Create a pipe network from objects. Let's select this first initial one here, and it gives me the flow direction for everything. Now, that's not going to be perfect. I know that my swim pond is going to be out this direction. So depending on how many pipes I have above or below, I might reverse that direction. And then click OK. Now, this is my PR STRM, PR storm. We're going to give our PR storm right here. Oh. And we are mapping to the wrong, of course we did this. Let's just make sure. Okay. I have to remap, so thought I was all set here. As it turns out, I do not have my catalog set quickly. Where did that go? Got too many installs. Just going to quickly drag this off screen just so we're not sharing all sorts of templates here. Let's try that again. I think I got that sorted. Reverse that direction. We'll click OK. All right, we're going to have to work with this for now. That's all right. When we're creating multiple here, PR storm, we're going to give this an initial size. Oh, for Pete's sake. Apologies, everyone. We're going to put this back to a pipe catalog. Very important. You guys should typically only have 2 pipe catalogs at most. Being someone who works with multiple people's standards, I have a gazillion of them. And what I mean by 2 pipe catalogs at most is you're always going to have the one out of the box. You might have with your company, you might have customized one, which is what I have done and now can't find it on a local drive that's functioning. That's all right. We'll keep rolling. PR Storm. All right, we're going to stick with this parts list for now. That is quite all right. Now, we can pick our surface. That's what's going to give us the elevations for the rim. That's going to allow us to do a number of things. We can use the vertices right here as elevations. Those elevations, I want those to be inverts. Or maybe I want those to be top of pipe. You can kind of pick here, right? I'm going to click OK. And then you do the same for each one of these. So pipe networks from objects. We're going to pick that object. Assume one flow direction. At this point, we don't care what the network name is, though, because we're going to merge it all together. We just want to make sure that we're using the vertices, the vertex elevations as the same thing for each one of those pipes. Now, I could do the next one up here. I'm going to keep moving on. Once we've created this here, the next option is we've got our pipes, our structures, all of that set up. And if I take a look at my prospector tab here, I've got 2 networks, PR Storm and Network 2. Well, I can take this network and I can merge networks right off the hop here. When I merge networks, I want to pick the one that's going to be merged into another, so my one with the crappy name, and then pick my PR Storm, the one that I've already got stuff in. I've allocated everything nicely. My Network 2 disappears out of here, and now I've just got my PR Storm, and if I go take a look, it's got all of the pipes and structures in there. Now, one thing to be careful with, though, is if I turn on the selection cycling, because there was a node on both of these, or a vertex on both of these right here, I do have 2 structures. Of course, I picked the wrong one there. That's okay. What we'll do is delete that structure. Now, be careful when we delete structures. We do want to use, there is a designated tool for it. That's going to cause problems if you're XREFing, or sorry, if you're data referencing and things like that. If you don't use this, you may run into issues. There we go. And now I've got 2 pipes, and I just need to go and connect those pipes back in. So this is one little piece of the puzzle that we have to be aware of when we're merging networks together, is if there are 2 entities with the same vertex there, it is going to draw 2 structures. And that's how we can get all of this created from survey figures that are created from some of my surveyors out in the field and things like that. We can get a little bit more efficient that way. Now, once we've got all of that design in here, do want to bump back. Come on now. There we are. We're then going to look to the CTC tools to help us design everything else. Because once we have the horizontal layout in there, we're going to start to seriously lose efficiency when it comes to designing our vertical layout of our pipes. And that's where CTC tools come in, with the flexibility for swapping multiple parts en masse, for being able to design in a run of pipes, as opposed to individually one by one changing the slopes and elevations. Being able to adjust some of that metadata. And one of the newest tools is the pipe planner. Being able to actually pull that into an Excel-like interface to look at all of the data in one spot, and then we can actually pull that out into Excel afterwards with Pipe Planner. We can create customized reports. We can pull this into pipe design worksheets and things like that. And we can create quantities and lots of other stuff, manhole schedules and all sorts. So seeing that now, I'm going to bump ahead a little bit here. I want to take a look at Street 1. Now I want to take a look at this with the context of CTC tools. I have the CTC Project Suite. Now these are all my pipe tools up here. Let's put this a yellow, that's nice to see. Notice that this guy's a lighter green right there. So lighter green because it's an awesome tool. It's a free tool. So you don't have to pay for the full suite to get those lighter green tools. You got a couple of them in here with corridor cleanup, feature line to align, and survey sweeper. All very useful little commands that are kind of offered up as little freebies by CTC. Now, part swapper becomes unnecessary now that we have Pipe Planner and we're going to be pulling all of this out into Excel, but we're able to pick lots of different parts with part tagger or part swapper. We can swap out all of the parts en masse. Part tagger, we can write out all of that metadata en masse. I can pick here to here. Or all of them in between. And I can start to write out some of my metadata. So in part tagger, it opens up, I've got the structures. I can put my my cover. This may be an OPSD 401-303. And we can just manually code that in there. Now, pipes, we've got a lot of that same, a little bit, right? You've got your surface that you can put in there. You've got your descriptions and things like that. When I click OK, though, it writes that cover out to my structures. So if I go to my structure properties, passing over it, here we are, my OPSD 401. So that's very useful for kind of getting us started with pushing out all of that metadata. Again, all of this parts tagger stuff is also sort of incorporated into Pipe Planner. I do want to open up Pipe Designer before we jump into the big Excel-like interface, but let's take a look. With Pipe Designer, we're able to start at the start of Street 1, go all the way to the end of Street 1. It'll grab everything in between. And when I click enter, it's going to pull up an Excel-like interface, but the ability to edit all of this stuff as a pipe run, to analyze it as all of a pipe run sort of thing. So I can get my drop. I know that my drop, now this is a backwards drop, so it should be negative 0.03 for the straight throughs. But I can take that and I can drag that down. And I can apply that drop to all of them. Clicking apply writes that out to my whole network. Now that wasn't a large change, but maybe this first one isn't, it's a pretty shallow pipe. That should probably be 0.5. Write that out, and it ripples through, it maintains the drop in here. My manholes are all named. I could come back here. I could look at, maybe I need to interpolate a slope between structure 12 and 11 right here. I can interpolate that slope and I can get a consistent one across. Hit apply and I can write that out. And it ripples through, it affects the whole pipe run collectively. Let's go one pass. Let's go to manhole 8 and interpolate that slope. Now there's not a lot of fall here. I could spend lots of time designing this, but it's quick to be able to jump. I think I lost you for a second. We're here. We can interpolate slopes. We can look at inverts right now of the structures, or we can look at the sump of the structures. As the things that are grayed out show up here, those are the not editable stuff. This is the editable stuff with the white. We can look at top of pipe, obverts, inverts, all sorts of stuff in here. And it's going to allow us to change all of that view and then push it out to our actual pipe networks. I'm going to click OK, and we'll hop out of this. Now, Pipe Designer is great. It's a really quick way within Civil 3D, the fastest way I've seen within Civil 3D to be able to design our pipe networks in a run style. Now, I like to look at it in profile view. I think that's a lot more visual for me. That being said, you can absolutely be doing this in plan view here as well. Selecting in plan view and then updating it in the interface to push it back out. It's all Civil 3D. There's nothing proprietary to it, right? It's just offering a more user-friendly interface to be able to manipulate all of our different elevations, inverts, and things like that, and slopes. Now, maybe you don't design that way. Maybe we design in Excel. Well, that's where Pipe Planner comes into play here. If I open up Pipe Planner, this is going to give me my whole network at a glance. But not just the whole network. It's going to give me all of my structures, all of my pipes. Let's put all of this away here. So all of my pipes and structures on one side, all of my metadata on the other. And everything that I want to combine together to view the actual custom stuff for that design, we push it all into the center. So starting off, I'll keep working with the sanitary. As I choose different networks, it's going to give me different options here for my structures and pipes. Now, I'm just going to take all my structures and push them in. By default, the very one thing that you have here is the structure ID. This is the handle ID that Civil 3D puts on an object. That's how pipe planner tells that, hey, it's this object is called manhole 1 and needs to have these values. Now, it's called manhole 1. Let's go find that name, and we'll push that name in. So yes, that is manhole 1. But we can change all of this stuff. This could be, I don't know, MHA1 or something like that. I can click and drag that down and change the name on all of them very quickly. But as we start to sort down here, we've got the structure offsets, we've got rim elevations, we've got part data. There's a lot of metadata that we can pull in here, as well as rules and the connected pipes and things like that. So I can take my connected pipe name, push that in. Connected pipe inverts, elevations, push that in. And I can start to build out a manhole schedule, or I can start to build out any number of different ways to report on this network. Now, we don't want to have to do that every single time. So we can start to build out templates that already have that pre-configured. You're going to need that same output every single project. So something like my sanitary design sheet layout. I can pick that. I've already created that here, and I can load that in. It's going to take all of the structures that I need here. It's going to take all of the pipes that I need here with all of the associated data. And I can make all of that data change in here. So I know that my Manning's coefficient isn't 0. For PVC, this should be, I don't know, 0.009 maybe. We can take that, pull that down, and we've just adjusted the Manning's coefficient. Click apply, and that's going to write out to my entire network. So it's very quick to be able to edit all of this data, but also see it all at a glance in a nice little spreadsheet here. Or in an Excel-like interface is what I keep saying. Now let's pull this actually out into Excel. So over here, I've got an Excel workbook that's already pre-created. That's no good. Let's try that again. Does not like the Y drive. And I've got this Excel sheet right here. Now, reading from that Excel sheet, generally what I like to do is I'll have a structures export sheet and I'll have a pipes export sheet. So I'll pick my structures export sheet for my structures, starting on cell A1. Same thing for the pipes, starting on A1. We can take that and we can export that directly out. It's going to overwrite anything that was in there, in those cells. And then we're going to open this up. And I've got this all dumped right into Excel. Now, from here, we can start to build this out. So we still have this at a glance. I can go and start to change. Maybe this doesn't totally make sense here. All of my covers, they're almost right. Let's go and drag this down. We can change all of those covers. Right here, that's a pretty hefty slope for some of these. For some of these inverts, I may have to come back and change. Sorry, I'm looking at pipes or structures, not pipes. That's a more reasonable slope. That makes a little bit more sense. But we can come in here and we can change these things. So if I wanted to change the diameter of these pipes, well, why would I change the diameter of those pipes? So we can think, and potentially we're taking these pipes, we're tossing them into our design sheet. So I can see my percentage full over here. And I can say with this one here, or as I start to edit some of these things, now these aren't the exact same values, but I could be using lookups in Excel. And as I start to adjust these, I can realize that, hey, these need to be 200s to lower the percentage in the pipe. Now we could come back here, we could update the size of some of these pipes, using the description. All of these need to be 250s. I've adjusted the Manning's coefficients already there. Maybe this was actually 0.095. So we can make that adjustment in here. We can save everything and close it. Now that adjustment hasn't been made in here. We've simply gathered the information that we're looking for and we exported. Now let's click cancel and bring all this stuff back in. So what did we do? We increased some pipe sizes. We adjusted some Manning's coefficients. We adjusted the covers. Now we're going to go up to Pipe Planner and import the sheets. And we can pull this back into Excel, or from Excel, sorry. Picking the file that we need. And the sheet that we need. So I'm going to take the pipes for starters. It's going to load them all in. It's going to show you everything that's to be updated right there and any parts that may or may not be found. That's updated. If I scroll across here, I've got my Manning's coefficients updated, ready to go. Click import and it pulls everything back in. With the ability to do this so efficiently, we can toss this off to other designers that may not have access to CAD. And we can have them do the design for us. Now, I think I'm running into some issues because of that pipe catalog again. There's no smoke and mirrors here. It's drawing a blank as to where that is. But all of this stuff is able to be pushed back out. Let's go take a look at our pipe properties here. And it rounded it to 0.10. But we're able to do all of that stuff in here. Push out our structure properties as well. Again, no smoke and mirrors. Let's go check it out. Cover. There you are. Oh, not one of the ones that was changed. Oh, because I didn't import those. There we go. So you import one piece of the sheet at a time. Let's go import. We'll try that one more time. There we go. We'll bring back in all of these covers to be updated here. Import. There we are. So being able to pull our stuff, all of our pipe network data into Excel is going to offer us a ton of extra flexibility for whatever we want to do, whether it's reporting, design, anything. So that's the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I would love to stick around and answer them. Looking at the question and answers right now, it does not look like we've got anything in here. Give it a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds just if people are typing right now. All of these webinars are recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So if there's ever something that you wanted to come back and see, it's all going to be available. I believe the link will actually be emailed out to you within a couple days after we've kind of processed it and everything like that. And don't, if you're curious about more of the tools with the CTC suites, they've got 2 of them for Civil 3D. And we are on version 23.0, so everything's compatible with 2023 Civil 3D. That's what I was using today. And we've got the Manager Suite and the Project Suite. So we got to look at some of the Project Suite today with respect to pipe networks only. We've got some great tools for grading. We've got some great webinars on that for plan production, for tabulation and kind of table and legend creation, and lots of labeling as well. So if you're ever curious about any of that stuff, we are more than happy to provide demos for you guys as well. And I'm rambling and I don't see any other questions. So I think this is where we'll call it. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating today. Again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions with the CTC tools or Civil 3D in general. We're always looking to help. We're always looking to see how people are doing things and help you guys find the best solutions for optimizing your workflows. Awesome. Have a great afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining again, and we'll see you next time.